So CEO succession in any organization, but particularly in a healthcare organization, can be very problematic. It's typically something that a board does only once during the duration of its members' terms, if at all, because it doesn't occur that often. So boards are unfamiliar with the rigor and process required to do it well. I think there's been a growing awareness that if a board has not thought through the strategy that it will undertake going forward and the requirements for its leader as they approach a succession scenario or a succession planning event, they find themselves at sea in a negative way. My main concern as we talk to board members across the country is that they don't focus on this topic as prominent a need in their board discussions as they should. So even if they don't have an immediate need for succession, having this conversation on a regular basis, at least a couple times a year, is something that will keep the issue front and center for them. In the absence of that, they're likely to be surprised, not in a good way. First and foremost, the board needs to be clear on its strategic options going forward. I think too often boards leap directly into the which person should we pick, rather than thinking about what the strategy that they will need to execute is and the type of person that would be best suited for that strategy. So they get, if you will, caught up in the cult of personality at times, rather than really aligning the individual opportunity or the individual candidate with the strategic need that the hospital or the healthcare system has. First is that the board cannot get itself aligned around strategy. That is, there are some factions on the board that think kind of a hold tight mentality is going to work best. There may be another faction that thinks, oh, we need to transform ourselves rapidly into more of a community-based healthcare plan, for example. And that schism, if it's not resolved before the succession planning work is undertaken, is usually deadly to the actuality of succession. From a CEO's standpoint, I think the biggest challenge for many CEOs is, frankly, acknowledging their own mortality or their own need to step outside of the organization at a very timely point. CEOs that we have worked with that have a greater awareness of when it's the right time to go do a much better job of shepherding the CEO succession practice. First one comes with getting aligned around strategy. So that sounds easy, but it's usually not, because boards, again, have different perspectives and the external environment is moving rapidly. So it's very difficult sometimes for a board to keep aligned as it looks at its strategic options. But once it does that, then it needs to get very granular about the characteristics or attributes of the next CEO. And that too is quite an extensive undertaking, requires board time and investment and ultimately alignment. But if it can get those two things right and in essence create this benchmark for the next CEO, as candidates come into the picture, whether they're internal candidates or external candidates, they can be compared objectively and extensively against that benchmark. And then the board has good objective information to make an informed decision.